What's going on, killer?
Hey, how are you?
Good. Hang on. I don't have any sound.
You don't have my sound? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
There you are. How are you?
I'm fabulous, y'all.
Terrific. We seem to be getting lots of people coming in.
Well, because of your guests, you know that.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with me. I can assure you of that.
I don't believe that.
Oh, trust me. It's all about you guys.
Marge is a Gittimer favorite.
Well, there you go.
Did you tell him I said hi?
I did.
Fabulous. I love that guy.
Everybody's on a bit early and I still have people coming on, which is really good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm good.
Sorry about
Learning a
that.
lot of lessons.
Sorry about the screw up on the frames. That was my fault.
Well, it's all good.
Too much time on the road, I think, between Atlantic City and Alabama. Got back and never really got myself organized, which is not unusual for me.
You know what? We're not on yet, are we?
Well, we're on, but we're not formally on, no.
But you're
Okay.
being
Being
recorded.
recorded.
There's nothing formal
Being
about this
recorded.
anyway. You can
I
say
can see
whatever you
everything.
want, do whatever you want,
How-
doesn't matter.
How long does this last? I'm just wondering. I have a full battery, but I don't want my phone to run down.
Generally about an hour-ish or so.
All right, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get some power.
Okay. Hi, Ally, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. How's everything going in your shop?
I haven't been there for 2 days because I've been sick, but
Oh, sorry.
they
You
haven't
sound-
called me.
You sound a bit clogged up there.
Yeah, it's going around here. So, but they haven't called me, so it must, it's still standing anyways. There's
Well,
no
that's all
insurance
right.
claims.
That's good. Sean, how are you doing?
Not bad.
Can you,
Got back from
obviously
the-
you can hear us now.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, the headset wasn't synced in.
I don't know about any of that stuff. I try to avoid those things.
Yeah, I remember that. The printer's
Anything
not
to do with
working. Well, I don't know
electronics
anything
or
about that.
computers, I'm out.
Control P.
One of these days, I'm gonna figure out some of this stuff, but so far, not so good. Richard, you're looking good there. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great.
Good. Farley, are you on or are you just sending your photos? No sound.
Maybe I should turn it. Is that better this way or this way? Am I making y'all dizzy?
What was that?
I said, am I making y'all dizzy?
You're doing fine. I can see you now.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. Well, we just lost someone, but that's all right. Formally, we're supposed to start at 11, so we'll see what happens, but
Sean disappeared.
man, it's being recorded anyway, so anybody who wants to catch up on this can get caught up with it. It'll be posted on my website probably in the next day or two.
Tes, tes, tes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
So how is the aftermath of the Atlantic City show for you guys?
Marge has been
Huh?
running around. Marge has been running around like a crazy woman, getting her auto set up.
So is it all up and running now?
It is. That
That's-
was, we're not official yet, are we?
No, I mean, it doesn't really matter. There is no official.
Good, because it was a clusterfuck. Let me just
Well,
let
that's
you know.
okay. Listen, this is one of those things where you can say what you want, doesn't really matter.
Okay, good.
That's screen printing
So
terminology.
what happened? What was the issues when you were setting it up?
It was just the communication was non-existent and just miscommunication between the electrician wired everything backward, and then they didn't have a tech, and then they did find a tech, and he was here for all of 36 hours and we were supposed to have, I don't know how many days of training, and we ended up having 45 minutes of training, and it's been a lot, but that's okay. We learned a lot of lessons.
Yeah, but not the ones you wanted.
Not the ones you paid for.
Well, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Well,
We'll see. I'm going to go
well,
visit Allie. She's going to tell me what I need to be doing.
so are they going to be coming back to do some training for you, or are you going to another, or down to them for any kind of training?
I think that we're going to work something out and have more training come here.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
you'd really want it at your place. You don't really, when you have an automatic, going to somebody else's facility, even though they may have something similar, it's
Right.
not the same as having it done at your place. And,
Right.
that's why I mean,
definitely.
obviously I speak at a lot of trade shows and that's fun. But really where the best consulting comes in is doing it in your own, in a facility with the people and with the equipment that you're going to be working with. Richard, you doing much in the way of any of that? I know you were overseas with, what were you, in Bangladesh or in
I was
Sri
in
Lanka?
Bangladesh at 7 different Young One factories. I go to Cleveland every Wednesday and do a day of training.
You'd think you'd get it right by now.
They hired 2 employees a week, so I go where, it's a regular thing. They know Wednesday is training day, and they build around it. They build the testing, stuff like that. We plan it beforehand, and it takes me 3 hours to drive there, 3 hours to drive home.
You say they're hiring 2 people a week. How many of those people that you just trained the week before, the month before, are still there?
I've only lost 1, and he was sketchy from the get-go.
There are some that you'd like to lose, even though you're working with them. It's kind of like, this guy isn't going to make it.
We all know what it's like. So
Oh, yes.
if they can count to 10, and they can fold shirts, they can do their laundry, they might have a place at the end of the belt.
I don't know, counting to 10 isn't the problem. I could never get the people that I work with to count to 12. They could count to 11 or 13, but they couldn't hit that number 12 when they were counting t-shirts.
Now, in this factory, they do still count to 12, but I've been a count to 10 guy for many years,
Me
since
too.
1981. So
Mhm.
So anyway, why don't we formally get this going? So today we have 2 guests, Allie and Marge, and both of you were winners of the Women in Screen Printing Awards, which I think is pretty cool. So Allie, you got yours the previous year, and Marge, you got yours this year. So
Yes,
has that impacted you guys at all? Your business and attitude in the shop and whatever?
Sorry. The attitude in the shop. Yeah. It has not impacted ours really. It's provided some legitimacy, I guess. You know what I mean? The more awards that your business wins and the more, publicity, it does provide that kind of air of legitimacy. And I have the wall of shame that I can stick it up there. So when people come in, they're like, oh, okay, they're not doing it out of their garage. So it must be something real. So yes, in that aspect, definitely. But I always feel like they got the wrong girl. So when I look at Allie and some of the other winners, I'm like, what? How did that happen? What? How did I get in here? But
Nope,
so yeah,
nope, you're right there. You are right there, Marge. Yeah, I'd say the same, kind of the same thing as Marge. Some legitimacy, maybe a little confidence boost. It's nice to be recognized within the industry. Maybe put that notch in your belt a little bit. I think it's given me a little bit of more of a voice in the industry, particularly among other female shop owners. But as far as customers and sales, I don't think it translates into dollars.
Interesting. You know, winning awards is always a very nice thing. I don't know how many people outside of the industry even understand what we do as an industry most of the time. You know, oh, you do too. I remember back in my early days, we were trying to get a loan and went to a particular banker and said, yeah, we screen print. He said, oh, that type, you know, it's like, no, we don't do heat transfers. And so we invited him to our factory, which blew his underwear off, but he still wouldn't give us money. You know, I mean, here we were knocking out 15 to 20,000 shirts a day. And of course, we've got automatics that are cranking and shirts all over the place. And so he's still thinking that it was like, oh, like Irish lace, you know, people standing there and doing these little doilies. And it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's the unfortunate thing in this industry.
yeah, to your point, I did a expo last week outside the industry. There's about 400 people there. And we made a video of the behind the scenes in the shop. It actually showed, you know, the embroidery and the laser and the screen printing and all of that. And that's what everybody was the most interested in. And we're surprised to see what we did and see inside the shop and that it was being done locally and things that way. Because yeah, most people, oh, you do embroidery and silk screening? Okay, you know, but when they see it and they see the equipment, that adds some legitimacy.
Yeah, what I found interesting when I had my shop, and we're going back to the 70s now, we would throw a big cocktail party once a year and invite all of our clients. And we had mostly garment industry and home furnishing clients, besides doing bootleg rock and roll, which was really our mainstay, but no one to invite there. And we'd set up our press, and so they could come in, they could hit the button so that a t-shirt would print. We didn't have any manuals. The manual that we had, we used for about 24 shirts and realized wasn't going to really work for what we needed. It's amazing how they would be blown away by watching an automatic print. And because you know, even people in the industry who contract off work still don't understand enough about what we do and how we do it. And so probably about 15, 16 years ago, I was working with a shop in Istanbul, and they're an interesting company. Samir is a member of the Academy, but back then he was not. And they're the only company I knew that was printing both Nike and Adidas under the same roof at the same time. And each company was willing to not look at the other side because he was such a great printer and is. And so we did a big open house when they moved to a new facility. And they only had about 60 or 70 people show up, but it was an entire team from Nike that flew in from Amsterdam, and the Adidas team flew in from Germany, and then there were all the others. None of the designers had ever been to a screen print shop from either company. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding. You know, here you are, obviously heavily involved in the garment industry. None of the designers, their biggest thrill was they got to print a one color shirt on their own. And
Yeah,
it's
that
just
happens.
weird. But, you know, it's one of those things that you find out very quickly that although you have a lot of customers, they don't understand the whole thing. So what we did at his shop was we grouped them based on the color of their badge and took them from department to department with one of the people from that department giving a full explanation of what goes on in that department. And it's something that you guys might really want to consider doing down the road, is to have an open house. We usually did it, with cocktails or whatever, finger sandwiches, but just something to kind of keep them occupied. But it's an amazing thing how much more business they got out of that, because then the designers were also able to start designing in a more productive manner or more production friendly manner. And that was a big thing for them. And they ended up doing that pretty much every year.
Charlie, we don't do it as an annual event, but our chamber here does a networking Chamber Connect once a month, and we'll host it every now and then. And when we do, we'll bring people in and we'll show them exactly what it takes to reclaim a screen and code a screen and burn a screen and put it on press and print. And the one thing that has been the most beneficial from that is we have more people say, I will never again complain about the cost of a printed t-shirt. And because they see everything that goes into it. And it's helped us a lot with quoting jobs, because we'll quote them and we're like, we're not gouging you. You've been here, you've seen, you only want 24 shirts. It doesn't matter. We have all of this same setup. So educating them has been really beneficial in that same vein as what you're talking about.
No, it's an amazing thing. Even getting into this industry initially, I had no idea what, I came out of the magazine industry and as a graphic designer and for ABC Network and stuff. And so I always wondered, how the hell do you get the t-shirt to go through all the rollers and come out the other end? I understood offset printing and I understood roll to roll printing, but I could never visualize, and you have to understand, this is 1976. I couldn't visualize what a screen printing press would be like. And until I went to my first show, which was in 1977, and got to see, well, there were two machine manufacturers at the time, Precision and Advance. So there was a round machine and there was an oval machine. I finally got to see what a machine actually looked like and how it actually functioned. Up until then, it was a total mystery to me. I just couldn't visualize it. Of course, there was no internet or anything like that. So trying to get information was almost impossible at that point. But
We do every year. I totally got this from, is it Rockford Art Deli? Is that right, Allie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jared.
He gave me the idea to do a free print day, customer appreciation day.
right.
And we've been doing that. This is, I think, the 4th year. And you would be surprised. We get rid of our old inventory. So, they can buy a t-shirt for $5 or bring their own. And we let them print their own shirt. And people love it. It's so simple. It's not, it's not a big deal to us, but them seeing the process and what we go through to make the shirt makes such an impact. And it's unbelievable the amount of business that we've snowballed because of that event. It really does make a difference. Plus they realize that we don't have a Cricut and we're not whatever, I don't know how they,
not to knock garage operations, but at the same time, that is the perception with most people, that you're working out of garage or out of your basement or whatever. And I don't think that most of them have a feel for what's involved at all, even though they may be contracting off work to you, et cetera. They really have no clue what's involved. And it's an unfortunate thing, but at the same time, it's also a very positive thing. I don't need everybody and their grandmother coming into this industry. Not that I'm opposed to people coming in. I think it's a great thing, but at the same time, there are too many who come in, screw it up for everybody else, and then drop out. And I think that was the thing about the pandemic. It actually got rid of a lot of the hangers on. When I first moved to Colorado, I would deal with the companies up in the mountains. After I got out of production, I got into sales. And so I'd have to go to the mountains. And I remember one year, not too long after I got here, they had what they called the no snow year, where there was minimal amount of snow, et cetera. And I was talking to one of my bigger clients about it. And he said, you know what? It hurts us this year, but what it does is it gets rid of those who've been making life miserable for us. And so we'll recover very well next year. And he said, it happens about every 10 years. He said, it's a bad thing, but it's also a really good thing, because there are people who just shouldn't be doing what they do. because they just make a mess out of it for all of us.
Yeah, we learned that when we took your class. We came back from that class and Julian was like, oh my God, we're doing everything wrong. I don't know how we're still in business.
You know what? This is an industry where you're not doing everything wrong. The reality is there's more than one way to do everything. And so as you pick up some information, you make adjustments. You know, it's definitely part of the learning process, for lack of a better term. There's always an adjustment in this industry. There's always something different. I'm in the middle of writing my book on my life in the industry. And I'm kind of looking back at some of the old stuff that I did, you know, which is, it would be embarrassing if I were doing it today. Back then it was considered award winners. Today, it wouldn't qualify as junk. You know, it would be a bad print. Looks good until you put it on. And then, you know, I mean, the police department was very close with us. And so, you know, I can remember we were putting Led Zeppelin and one of the cops took off his shirt, took off his bulletproof vest. We threw it on the press. And so if he ever got shot, they opened up his uniform, they'd see Led Zeppelin on his bulletproof vest. But, you know, I mean, they were fun times and all, but certainly the Led Zeppelin part probably protected him more than his bulletproof vest.
Bulletproof ink,
Huh?
bulletproof ink.
Oh, you know, you have to understand it was lead based at that time. And so, and there was lots of it going down. The standard mesh for us was a 90. So
Oh, wow.
93, 86 didn't, I don't know if 86 existed, but I know it was a 93 mesh, which I never found again, but love this stuff. So Marj, I was reading up on your days prior to the industry. I always thought I had a bit of a weird life, but hey, I concede you definitely have me over on that one. That was it was actually a fun read.
Which
so
one
what'd you
did you
think of-
read?
What, huh?
Which one did you read?
Which ended
The-
up going to Japan.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that was the last one that I did because there's a bunch on my blog. There's a lot that I don't talk about. You know, I used to go, I have a lot of friends in the music business, and I used to, for fun before the show, we would all take out the band and some of our friends, we would all go out and confiscate bootleg t-shirts from
Oh, and you probably ended up with a bunch of mine. Although you're not
So I
old enough
do.
to
I
end up
probably
with
have
a
a
bunch
bunch of
mine.
yours from the 80s, like Monsters
from
of
the
Rock or some
70s.
shit.
70s and early 80s.
Well, then I missed you. It was another one then. But yeah, I've done a lot of shit.
Yeah, I actually got busted more than once selling bootleg shirts out on the street. They would confiscate the shirts. They'd stick you in, you know, you'd hang out at the police station till the way out. Then they'd let you go, confiscate the shirts, no big deal.
Mhm.
Part of the learning process.
Part cost of doing business.
Well, you know, I mean, it was the price you paid. Most of my guys were quite good, but every now and then they'd get banged, and so that would, you know, hurt their
Mhm.
pocket a bit, but nothing that I could do about that. But I mean, I had 300 guys out on the road, so, you know, eventually some of them were going to get caught. That was all right. It was a fun time, though. Not sure if it was a profitable time, but it was a lot of cash that came in and went out really fast. So I have a couple questions for either of you. When did you really get into this industry, and why and how?
I got into the industry around 2009 when I was in another industry that went down with the recession, we'll say. And I had basically a vinyl cutter and was making political banners and signs and things this way as to make a little money. And I walked into a athletic store and said, "Hey, how much did you pay for that banner?" And the owner said, $500. I said, "Call me next time, I'll do it for 300." And he said, well, what I really need is somebody who can print t-shirts. Can you print t-shirts? I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. Didn't have the foggiest clue
I
what
know.
it involved, what it got into. So I went home, hopped on the internet, did some research, bought a system. I'm embarrassed to even say what it was, but I bought a system, went out to Seattle, Kirkland, got 3 days of training. That'll tell you what system it was. Got 3 days of training and came back and started printing t-shirts and really jumped in. One of my first orders was for the Prince George's County Fire Department for their breast cancer shirts. And I had a little manual press and I didn't even have a dryer. I was curing everything with the flash, and they placed an order for 3,500 t-shirts that I had to get done within like a week and a half. And I said, sure, I could do that. Oh my gosh, I was so far in over my head. So I very quickly got a dryer within that week. We actually pulled it off by pulling a bunch of all-nighters, but it was baptism by fire. And then I just really liked it and enjoyed it. I enjoyed the creative aspect of it and just kept building it. And then I think, you know, my story had a little bit of a hiccup 2014, 2015, where I all but shut my business down because of my husband's health. And then we really relaunched in 2017 and have been growing since then, going like gangbusters.
How many people do you have working in your place?
I have 14 people now,
Oh,
but we
okay.
also have embroidery, screen print, laser, wide format, and sublimation. So
Okay. Marge, you're gonna
So
fill us, go for it.
mine was a little different journey. So I'm a single mother and I always had an extra, side job to help my kids, pay for karate lessons or whatever. And I realized when I came back home, I was selling sex toys at home parties for women, kind of like Tupperware with batteries. And when my company was bought out, I was like, well, I don't want to redo this. Besides, I'm owning a job. I need to actually have a business. So I decided that we would do conventions and we would sell t-shirts at conventions. And so I had people printing the t-shirts, but they kept messing them up and, putting incorrect grammar or whatever in there. And so I'm like, well, maybe we can do it ourselves. So I'll do that. And that's kind of how we fell into the business. And here we are.
And about what time, what year was that?
We've been in business, I think this will be our 7th year.
Okay.
I think Julian wants to be on camera.
And how many people do you have working in your shop?
Right now, I have my oldest son is my production manager. And then I have Chris helps us out part-time. He's kind of like the shop elf. He does the catching or reclaiming screens or whatever. And then I just hired an office manager who starts on Monday.
Nice. So Andrew, I see you're on with us. I just
Yeah,
want
good
you
to
to know
see you.
that both Ally and Marge ended up with a bunch of your stuff. Andrew's with PMI.
and we appreciate it.
Yeah, no, Charlie, thank you for spreading the word.
Tremendously.
So nice to have you on.
Yeah, no, thanks for inviting me.
Anytime. Becky, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You had some questions about certain type of what was it, software or whatever?
Yeah, I was asking about, we've been having issues processing our freight, from purchasing to checking it in and getting it to the correct departments. We do everything on paper and there's either copies go missing or they make copies and make too many. So I was just wondering what other people do, if there's some kind of software program available to help streamline it a little bit.
What we have been using, but we're a lot smaller than most people right now, is Trello. So that platform is a free platform and you can make different columns and then we can move things to each column as it goes through the process from art to, you know, print ready or whatever. You basically, it's just a platform and you can make it into whatever you want. So that's what we've been using.
Okay, we're using Inksoft right now, but haven't been using that like order management side of it, but it
That's
seems
you.
clumsy.
So we use actually two systems. We use Inksoft for all of our online stores and processing, and we use Printavo for all of our bulk orders. They've both been bought out by the same venture capitalist. I'm really hoping the two systems get merged into one because
Yeah, I
they
just
both,
heard that.
yeah, they both have, they definitely both have their pros and cons. And if we could take all of the pros from both of them and merge them together, it would be, I have been saying for, Marge has heard me say it for 5 years, if Printavo and Inksoft would get married and have a baby, life would be grand. So I'm hoping the marriage just happened, and I'm hoping, you know, on the honeymoon, there's a baby. Let's go.
Yeah, be nice.
You know, but before we had those systems, so Inksoft works really, really well for managing the order process when the order comes in from an online store. But we don't, I personally don't care for the bulk orders, the proposal side of it. And that's just my personal preference, which is why we use Printavo. But it is pretty slick if you get in and you use it and you walk it through the purchase orders and the receiving, and you take the time to set up your statuses and do all of that. Before we had Inksoft or Printavo, we had a giant whiteboard in our shop with each of the different, you know, orders waiting. We had different categories or statuses, and we just literally write going across the statuses, you know, so whether it was in quote, waiting to be paid, whether blanks have been ordered, received, or in production. So I don't know if there's a way you can have, I think from what you're saying with individual orders getting lost, my one suggestion is either whether it's Trello or Inksoft or a whiteboard or whatever, you have to have one master place where all orders are tracked instead of an individual sheet of paper that could get lost.
Yeah, yeah, we kind of do. I mean, we have both. Were you saying that Printavo is good for bulk orders? That
We like,
process?
yeah, we like Printavo for
Okay.
the bulk orders.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
And I'd be happy, you know, if it's not relevant to everybody on the call, if you want to email me or give me a call, I'd be happy to show it to you and you can look at it. So it's an outside, not high pressure sales.
Perfect, thank you.
So Andrew, while we have you on, anything new and exciting coming up that we don't know about on the tape side?
Nothing too crazy. We are working on a new film-based single-sided palette tape. So it's just an alternative to a regular paper palette tape. What kind of sparked all this, we've heard from a lot of people recently that something has changed with their paper palette tape, and they're seeing it tear into a million little pieces and transfer the glue onto the palettes. So something, we get a few calls a day about it of like, hey, can you guys make a just paper palette tape? We've got our double-sided palette tape that has its uses, and some people love it, and then some people really like just the paper palette tape. So both kind of have their markets, but we're working on this film-based palette tape and are waiting on some film stock to come in that we coat with adhesive to put together prototypes. But that's kind of the new thing that we're working on.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah. And because it's film-based, the price is actually maybe a little bit less than a paper palette tape. That paper is surprisingly expensive because it's a saturated paper. It's really made for application tape for vinyl graphics, but also works for palette tape. So this is kind of the custom product that we're doing that can have a higher adhesion because it's film and will peel cleaner. So it won't lift up, it'll pull off in one piece. So something that we're kind of putting together. I don't know how it'll work right off the bat. We'll need to do a lot of testing and get feedback and everything. But that's one thing that's kind of in the works.
I'm sure that some of these people would love to be beta sites for you.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome. Yep.
So
Perfect. No, I'll,
shoot them your,
yeah,
your
write your names
email
down.
address. And they can respond to it.
yeah, for sure.
Rocky, how are you and Alma doing? Nope, you're still muted. Can't hear you. Nope. Okay. Well, that seems to work. Okay. Back to you guys. So where do you see your shops going down the road?
Well, I'm planning on ruling the world. So I'm just
Yeah, but
following right
you know,
along
you've got
after
other
Ally.
people that you got to fight for that one.
No, there's enough for all of us to do that.
Yeah, but then you can't rule the world. I mean, ruling the world means you rule the world.
Well, my little world,
Okay.
maybe not everybody else's, but no, we're in a very distinct growth phase right now, which comes with some growing pains and some
Always.
learning curves, but that's okay. We got this. So we had planned on automating when we went out to Long Beach this year. And I'd actually gone out in 2020 before everything shut down and we were looking at stuff then. So that kind of got put on hold. And so I came back this time from Long Beach and said, okay, this is what we want. We've decided, my son and I went out and looked at equipment. This is what we want. This is what we decided. Put the picture on the door, taped it onto the door. So every time we walked through into the shop, we would see it and touch it. And then 2 weeks later, I bought one and found exactly what we wanted, found at half price from a shop that was going out of business, less than 2 years old. And it just kind of fell in my lap. So we went with it. We
Nice.
weren't quite ready to go with it, but here we are. So there's a lot of growth going on over here.
You know, the first automatic is always the toughest one. I mean,
Mm,
it's one of those things of like, I don't know if I should do this or not. I don't know if I can handle it. And then you get it and you realize, it isn't that tough.
mm,
The next one comes much easier, and the one after that and one after that, because you know what it takes to keep them going. And so it
right.
really is far less of a situation in terms of sleepless nights.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think the hardest part was just for me to commit. I do have commitment issues in case anybody's wondering. But once I decided, then I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. That's it. We're going to make it work.
Yeah.
Because
I was always the other way. I would just do it and then think about it, which was stupid, but nevertheless. Allison, you're going to be expanding your shop any further, or are you kind of happy where you are?
No, I always want more. I always want more growth. So for me, it's kind of twofold. One, we are completely out of space in our shop. I'm in the DC area, so space is very expensive. So trying to decide if we want to, right now we're in a warehouse and we take up about 25% of it, but the owner just put the building up for sale. So trying to decide if we're going to buy the building and take over a little bit more of the building to be able to grow, or if we move, or if we, I also do a lot of Lean Six Sigma. So if it's growth through increased profits rather than growth through physical equipment and space, that's all on the table right now. But something's got to give because we are climbing all over each other at the shop right now. So.
Yeah, that's not a good thing either. The account that I worked with for the longest time, I went with them from, probably about an 800 square foot facility to 3,500, which we built out to 5,500 by putting in platforms. They were in that for 8 years. Then we jumped to 20,000 square feet where they thought they would never have to move again. And 8 years later, we went to 73,000 square feet.
So
Um,
we're at that 3,500, we've got 4,000 square feet. We've been in it for 4 years. When we moved into it, we thought it was all the space in the world and life
Of
was going to be
course.
grand. And now we're pretty tight. So I think our next step really is to put on a second shift, and to
I-
be able to continue that way and then look at expanding out.
I would tell you from my background, if you're going to look at space, 4 times the size of what you have.
All right, well,
Otherwise, you'll grow out of it so quickly that, and the cost of moving and the cost of expansion is brutal, far greater. I mean, the client that I worked with when we were in 20,000, they said, "Oh, we found a 40,000 square foot with really high ceilings." And it's like, you know what? I'm not even getting on a plane to see it because it's too small. And
yeah.
they said, "Yeah, but it's 40,000." It's like, yeah, too small. 73,000 was really the way they needed to go. And I've just watched too many companies that made a move that was too small. It sounded big, you know, and most companies start out much smaller. I mean, I was, like I said, I did stupid things. On day one, I went out and rented 15,000 square feet, and didn't know what a press looked like.
Oh,
3
wow.
years, 3 years later, I took another 15,000 in that building. You know, the cost of space is really high. The cost of moving and the downtime, so much greater. And if you're going to do it, and if you're going to make the move, make it so that you're not stuck behind it in a couple of years. But it really doesn't take very long to go through the space that you have.
Yeah, the
Right.
building that we're in is 20,000 square feet. And so, and we've got 5 of it. So, or 4 of it. So,
Well,
that,
good.
you know,
Give up your 4 and take the other 16.
well, that's part of my thought is if I were to buy the building, then I could go take 10,
Right.
lease out the other 10. And then as I need the space, be able to
Which is
Just
a good way to go.
not renew leases, but yeah, in DC, that's about $2.9 million that I need to come up with. And that's,
Yeah, but you know, real estate always goes up, especially in the area that you're in. I mean,
yeah,
as bad as it is now, it'll only be worse later.
true statement.
You're not
Yeah.
making more
What
money.
was the statement they said about real estate? It doesn't grow. You can't get any more. I mean, it is what it is. And
Right. Yeah. That, or I'm just going to wait for March to rule the world and I'm just going to sell it all to her. So,
I mean, you
Marge,
could.
how much space are you in?
Our warehouse that we're in is, it's bigger than 10,000 square feet. It's pretty big,
Okay.
but like one space. We have enough space. We could probably put 3 autos in the shop area, and then we've got the front area too. But I was going to say, I don't really know. You have to kind of consider your cost. A lot of times it is cheaper to rent a space than it is to buy the building. So, and the other thing is, where's the tipping point? You know, how many autos do you want to have before you're just paying for more people instead of actually, you know,
Making more money.
having a profit? Yeah. So I kind of want to find that in between, because it's not that I want to get, like I said, I want to rule my world, not everybody else's. So I
Yeah.
don't need 10 autos if I'm making what I want to make and can do what I want to do.
I
So-
found,
And there's part of that too. I want it automated. Like, I don't want to have to be here. I mean, I have to be here now, but eventually I don't want to have to be here. I want somebody else to have to be here. So there's that aspect of it as well.
I found when I had my company, we grew it to about 100 people. And I found for myself at about 30 to 35, I loved it. And after that, I have to admit, I didn't know most of the people who worked for me. What was worse is they didn't know who I was either. And there was just no harmony. The reality, and there are some people who can certainly handle much bigger situations without any issue. I found for myself about 30-ish was about where I needed to be. And so when I opened my supply house, I think I got that up to about 13 or 14 people. That was really good. I like that. I mean, when you're young, of course, the first thing you think of is, I want to rule the world. I'm going to just grow this and be monstrous. And, you find out, yeah, your top end is really good. Your bottom end hasn't gotten any better. If anything, it's gotten worse. And so, hitting certain sales numbers is kind of an exciting moment, but not for very long. What you find exciting is when that bottom line looks good. But, initially, the idea of growing a company and making it really big, yeah, it sounds great. I was never a great financial guy, so to that end, it never really meant enough to me. But I think, both of you have certain positive situations. Being women in the industry is certainly part of it. I think you should be taking advantage of every situation you can based on that. Being a quote unquote minority owners. I think that's one of those things that not enough people take advantage of. As long as you're there anyway, what the hell, may as well go after it and push it, stuff it up somebody's face that you are a minority and you'd like to get some of their business. Anyway.
We should use that for schools, Ally.
There you go.
You should. Years back, there was another group of women in the industry, and they made a bit of noise for a while. Of course, I'm going back well before either of you were around. And back when Sue was the editor of Screen Printing Magazine. And so she was part of it. Sue Fresca and Pat Fresner and several other women were all kind of getting together, because back then the number of women in the industry was a fraction of what it is now. And so they were trying to make their noise in the industry. But I think you guys are doing a great job. I think Screen Printing Magazine is doing a great job of promoting the women in the industry. And I think that's a really, really good thing.
Yeah, I think Adrian is doing a great job with partnering with Rock and doing the Women in Screen Printing Awards, but also not just women in screen printing, but they've got the Rising Stars, and they've got
Yes.
all of that I just think it helps promote the business or the industry all around, from those the garage printers and things that we talk about.
Yeah, they have really diversified that and made it different. Not just women in screen printing, but like you were saying, the Rising Stars. I love what they're doing with Screen Printing Magazine right now.
I agree. We had Justin Brew on a month ago, and he's definitely an exciting young man in terms of what he's doing. Very enthused. I don't know when the guy sleeps, but I get messages from him at weird hours in the night. But certainly Screen Printing Magazine is definitely doing a great job of promoting those rising stars, as well as women in screen printing. I think that's really a wonderful thing. As it turns out, most of them are from the textile side, although not all of you are. But I think that's a great thing. Charles, we got you on.
Hey, Charlie. Yeah, I'm here. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good. How's everyone? I got in here late.
It's all right. We're about done. So no, I'm joking. But we do have recorded, if nothing else. So that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure.
You staying busy?
Yeah, we've been pretty busy lately, which is a good thing. It wasn't great for my taxes, but
It
But
wasn't
I
great
guess
for what?
a tax problem is a good problem to have.
Oh, please, I just did my taxes the other day and I probably hate doing taxes more than anything else. And it's always a battle of how can I write off certain things and take advantage of whatever there is out there. I turn it over to my accountant. There are some things that I never want to touch. I still have to put together all the paperwork. And I'm always amazed how much paperwork has accumulated in a year.
Yeah, pretty insane.
It is. Uncle Sam wants his due, like it or not.
That's right.
So, yeah, taxes due later this week, although I always take my extension for no real reason other than that's what I've been doing forever. And so I don't want to change the pattern just in case somebody decides to look into my taxes.
You don't want to set off any red flags?
Huh?
You don't want to set off any red flags?
None, as few as possible. And as I get older, even fewer. Although, it's interesting. So I did up until the pandemic, I would do a lot of work overseas. And so what was always interesting is you do work overseas, nobody ever really pays you in a way that it shows up. And so I'd always have to check with my accountant. It's like, so I've been gone for 200 days. How do I justify 200 days with what I've made? And he said, yeah, don't worry about it. It's been like that for a long time. Do any of you ever go overseas and visit a screen print shop or whatever and write it off?
Every time I travel, I try to visit a screen print shop, whether Hawaii or wherever it is. And the last time I went to Hawaii, I went to visit this little shop and I called the guy up. I'm like, hey, I just want to come see your shop. And he was so suspicious. He's like, you can't take any pictures. You can't I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to steal your stuff. I'm not moving here. I just want the write-off, right? But I have not visited any shops outside of the country. So when I go to England, I really want to do that. So if there's anybody in England that wants to,
I know
be like,
people, I
"Hey,
can send you to shops there. It's not a problem.
I'm ready to visit anywhere. I don't care. And me and Allie are going to go on a Screen Printers World Tour and
Well, you
visit.
tell me where you want to go. I know shops all over the world,
Isn't that right, Allie?
That's right.
including
What do you-
Hawaii. If you'd called me about Hawaii, I would have put you in touch with CGTs and Kona. I put the first automatic into Hawaii way back into their shop.
Nice.
What,
But
do you
yeah,
have
if
to
you're gonna
have some
if you're gonna go to
documentation or
England,
something?
huh?
Do you guys have to get some documentation or something to be able to write that off? You're writing off the whole trip?
Well, you can write off at least a portion of it, including your airfare and stuff.
Mhm.
Airfare, hotel, etc., for the time that you're visiting that shop. So even if it's for one day, you still get to write off that portion. If you're going theoretically for 10 days and you spent 2 days at a shop, then you should be able to take 20% of your expense and throw it out
Mhm.
the door as a business situation. And of course, nobody is checking how many days you've been in that shop. So,
Mhm.
you know, you can write that off.
Hey,
That's how we're
Charles,
doing Australia, Marge. We're gonna go visit Jody.
Yeah,
You're gonna
absolutely.
go to Jody's shop. So Jody's gonna be on. I need to check with her when, but she's gonna be on this. So I met Jody and her
Nice.
husband, I don't know how many years, a long time ago. And I was trying to think of the last time where we were when we met, and I think it was in Singapore. But
Oh, yeah?
but I haven't been to Australia in a long time. I did a consulting job in Australia. It's got to be, I was thinking back at it about 35 years ago, and loved Australia. Absolutely loved it down there.
Mhm.
People were wonderful. Food was really interesting. Drinking was more interesting. Everybody seems to drink a lot.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
The only tough part was trying to drive after drinking because they drive on this other side of the road, and had its challenges. But where Jody is, she's down in the Sydney area, I believe.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And Sydney was gorgeous. But the areas along the waterfront outside of Sydney were spectacular. You know, and seeing parakeets flying in groups all over the place was kind of interesting. I was down on the shore and this huge king parrot landed in the tree about 10 feet from me. And it was like, wow. I mean, I was just blown away. It was just exciting as hell. The only thing
Well,
that
she
wasn't
doesn't
so
know we're
wonderful-
coming yet.
Huh?
She doesn't know we're coming yet,
Yeah,
but
but
we
that
are.
doesn't matter. You always got to do is surprise her and show up.
Right. That's right.
Hi, we're here. No, I just don't understand why not enough people take advantage of so much of what goes on in this industry outside of this country. You've got FESPA coming up in Berlin, which unfortunately this year I'm not doing, but too many things going on with Russia and being that close and having that much of an impact. I actually had a trip planned for Germany and we had to cancel it out. It was going to be more of a road trip. Well, at about close to $10 a gallon for gas, we decided between that and what goes on with Russia, not really the place to be this time.
Yeah, well, we had a trip planned for the middle of June to Prague, Budapest, and Vienna. So,
Yep. Obviously, you've canceled that out for now.
yep.
Yeah, the pandemic has really taken its toll on my travels. I mean, I had a whole thing planned for my wife and daughter to come with me to South Africa. We were going to Kruger National Park, do the whole song and dance there. Besides the trade show that I had to do there, that all got blown away. Germany now got blown away. And I used to go to Germany probably 3 times a year. Haven't been there. My last trip actually was coming back from Egypt in March of 2020 and haven't been out of the country other than Mexico since then. So we've rescheduled and we're going out of the country anyway. We can go up to Canada.
Well, you know, a lot of times I don't think people know about like all the trade shows and everything in the industry in the United States, because I know for the first 3 years, I had no idea that there was anything like that. And then, you know, even then it takes a while to get that like global idea that there's stuff going on. Otherwise, you just don't. Where do you find that out? We get so mired down in what we're doing in our shop and just trying to make it through each week that it's not until I start looking for, okay, what kind of continuing education are we going to do? What are we going to, you know, what do I need to learn and add, and how, you know, as the business owner, we try to spend that time making sure that we're growing and keeping up. So I think a lot of it is just people don't know. They don't know it's out there
You know,
or what they can do.
you know, I think trade shows are extremely important. And I think sometimes going out of the country just to get a feel for what goes on in the rest of the world, because they don't necessarily do everything the way we do, especially when you go over to India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, China, etc. They do a lot of table printing. They do a lot of things with inks that we don't use. Not that we can't get them, but we don't even have, you know, like water-based. Everyone here is really more familiar with high solid acrylics or standard water-based. There are other water-based inks and they're used heavily overseas. We don't use them here because no one ever requests them. But they do have certain properties that are definitely more in tune with what we would want. But, you know, of course, the ink companies aren't going to push anything new and different because they're trying to sell what they have, which is difficult enough to get right now anyway. But, you know, I've always been a fan of going overseas and certainly making a little bit of time to see what's going on over there as well. But, you know, just meeting the people from different parts of the world. Farley was on earlier. He's in Indonesia. Of course, for him, watching this is kind of tough because they're 12 hours different. So he has to set his alarm clock to wake up in time to catch this, which he does periodically. But, you know, even going to Indonesia, I mean, I just found it to be really fascinating to see how they do. I got taken to a boutique factory, watching the women with airbrushes and wax doing real boutiquing. And then watching the whole dyeing process and stuff, how that relates to garment industry and what we do, and how different it is, but yet end result is still somebody wearing a garment. Kind of fun.
That's
Anyway,
research and development. We need to do more of that, Ally. We
Okay,
need to
let's
just get
go.
a bunch of people together and do some research and development. Maybe
There you
one
go.
quarter a year.
but you do have the right to write that off.
Mhm.
And should you plan a vacation in terms of where you're going based on seeing the shop? If you can write off part of it, why not? I don't know of too many shops that are on Bali, but I'm sure that you could take a quick stop in Jakarta and then jump over to Bali. I've
There
been
you
trying to
go.
talk my wife and daughter into it for a couple of years now. It is so inexpensive that it's frightening. Everybody hears about Bali and they see the huts on the water and they're $1,500 a night. Yeah, I know. 5-star hotel, 1 block off the beach is under $100 a night. Of course, the 35 to 40 hours of getting there, that's really the toughest part. But I don't know. I still think that
Well,
those are worthwhile things.
Oh, absolutely.
I glow in the dark, so I'm gonna try to keep it that way. Y'all have fun at the beach with those sharks. That's not my cup of tea.
Come on, Marge.
No,
Yeah.
I'll go hike a volcano in Hawaii or something.
As long as it isn't spewing a lot of ash, huh?
That's right.
Well, any last words? Thanks so much for you guys being on. I do appreciate it. There you go. There you go,
Nice.
snorkeling. So I actually did a job down in what was it? In Central America. And they wanted me to go diving. I said, I can't dive. So, well, what about snorkeling? Okay. What's that country? God, too many countries that has the second barrier, the largest barrier reef to Australia.
Oh, my goodness. Mhm.
It's just
Belize?
past, huh? Belize. What a strange country. Did get to eat turtle though. That was pretty good. But getting dragged behind a boat, and here's all these conch shells all over the place. And that was pretty cool, actually. Unfortunately, I never learned how to dive. I did have opportunities. We had a client in that wanted us to come down. I sent my partner down at the time who did dive. And Stuart was the guy. He is the guy that they did all the videos on sharks with. And it's like, it's good that my partner went, not me, because I really don't need to have any more sharks coming at me.
Mm-mm.
So Charlie, closing words, we've got to know what's the shirt of the day. We can only see a little tiny bit of it.
The shirt of the day.
Yeah, so which one is it today?
This one's kind of, well, it's one of my Robert Grimm. I don't know. Can you see? I don't know if you can see the back or not.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
awesome.
This one is on the tame side. I'm at home. So at home.
We still have to know.
Well, it's it still has its cuff and all of
Got
that
the
stuff.
cuffs and all of
Fabulous.
it.
A little bit of a trim on the edge.
Fabulous.
But I'm now going through all my old ones, which I loved a lot of, but they're definitely far more tame than some of the newer ones.
Mhm.
But just
So-
one of those things.
How do you find out about all of the different things globally that you attend, or which
So-
shows would be good? Because just because you find out about a show doesn't mean that would be a good one to attend. You know what I
Well,
mean?
And yeah, and you're absolutely right. Listen, some of them are definitely not worthwhile. They're very small. Like some of the shows that I've done in Indonesia had maybe 35 or 40 booths. Okay, I mean, I was there invited to speak, so that I was there. Would I have gotten on a plane to go to that? I would not. Then there's another show in Indonesia that's held in Jakarta, and it's part of a huge garment industry show. So screen printing makes up a small portion of it. There's a huge amount of equipment. Does that really pertain to what we deal with? Not really. And the only way you're going to know is by checking with some of the people that are involved. But that being said, the shows that FESPA puts on, okay, their main show is generally going to be large, especially that big one coming up in Berlin. Will they be doing others? I do their show in Mexico City, and quite honestly, it's a really good show, not that far from where we are.
I think you
Has,
should post a list of shows that you should attend internationally.
you know, there are really quite a few that are worthwhile. Shows in China, believe it or not, are monstrous. And they have so much equipment over there that we never see. But you also have a lot of companies that are doing supplies over there that we never see here. And some of it is so inexpensive that you're kind of worried about, should I really buy this because it's so cheap? You know, I come back with a bunch of loops and stuff like that, and lasers and whatever, which I have no use for, to be honest with you, but I buy them anyway because they're so inexpensive. But definitely doing some of the shows like down in Guangzhou or in Shanghai. Shanghai is an amazing city. You know, there are probably a dozen shows that are worth considering in different parts of the world. And there are shows all the time everywhere, but
Is the one in Berlin your favorite international show?
well, FESPA definitely puts on a great show. And so without a doubt, anything that they do is going to have a pretty strong showing. Although the last time they did one, there were virtually no screen printing people. But that was in the middle of the pandemic. So, you know, it was more of a regional show, not an international show, because not everybody could fly in for it. But the one coming up in Berlin will probably be very good. The one following it, whenever that is, probably the following year, will probably be the show worth going to. Kind of like Long Beach. You know, Long Beach was actually considered the best screen printing show in the world up until the pandemic hit. And so, you know, you guys were both at it this year, and it was a fraction of what it really was like 2 years back.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Will it be better next year? Without a doubt. Okay. And I thought Atlantic City, for whatever it was worth, was really a good show. Maybe not as many exhibitors, but I think there's more to a show than just the exhibitors. There's the seminars and workshops. There's the interaction with a bunch of people from the industry. And I think those are the things that you have to look at as well. But certainly we seem to be moving in the right direction, I think, anyway, in terms of things opening up, even though we do some stupid stuff every now and then. But I believe things are getting better, and certainly the shows are getting better. It'll be interesting to see where they go. I'm working with Impressions a bit right now. They want to put together a series of workshops or seminars, actually, that are going to be conducted by some of the quote unquote upper echelon in the industry. We'll see how that actually turns out. And it's going to be geared to the advanced print shops versus a basic or an intermediate. Of course, nobody knows how to define what advanced is versus, we know what basic is. We have no clue what advanced is. In the past, it was like, oh, if you can do 4-color process, you must be advanced. Well, you know, everybody and their grandmother has a computer now. And so you don't have to be phenomenal to get something out of it. Whether it's good or not is another story. But kind of curious to see how this whole thing pans out. But I know they want to kick it in, and they'd like to try and kick it in later this year. Other than that, I really can't say a whole lot about it because I don't know how much they want to put out there, but we'll see how that goes. But as far as shows, if you're interested in going somewhere in the world, call me. I mean, I could probably put you in touch with a print shop. Not sure if it needs to be on top of a volcano or on the beach, but
I'll
there
find
are
something to
those.
do.
There are those. I would, if it were me, would I go to Australia? Australia definitely has print shows, and I would certainly, without hesitation, go down to Australia. I
Mhm.
thought it was great. I'm trying to still talk my wife and daughter into it. If we could get there faster, I know I could get it done, but it's time. That's the only issue.
Mhm.
24 hours in a plane.
Yep.
When I went there, and I'm going back 35 years ago, I had to go Denver to Hawaii, which I got to in the middle of the night, Hawaii to Fiji, which looked gorgeous until I was stepping off the plane because they have to spray it down and refuel. It was like somebody put a noose around my neck and just started squeezing really hard. The humidity was beyond belief. Got down to Australia, loved it. Would definitely go back without any hesitation. And I don't know how many hours it took, but I know on the way back, whoever was in the seat next to me actually laid down under the seats and went to sleep. And it's like, really? I don't know, but I don't doubt that it's 24. I don't know. You can do some direct flights from Chicago. I'm from.
You can, yeah,
I
you can
don't
go
know.
direct from LA. If you can
Yes.
get to LA, you can go LA to Australia, LA to Sydney direct.
On Qantas.
Yeah, I don't know what the time frame is. I know they've put in some new situations over the last couple of years. Because when I did go to Japan, it was Denver to Tokyo direct in 11 hours.
14
Yeah.
hours from LA to Sydney.
We
Okay.
can crash at Jody's. We'll just call her up and tell her we're going to show up.
Perfect.
The weirdest shop I ever went into was in Sydney back then. So I go into a shop and they're printing water-based ink and they're on an automatic and it's going really slow. And I said, what's the deal? And I realized he doesn't have a dryer. As the shirts were coming off, he was putting them on a hanger and hanging them up. And I said, you bought an automatic to see how slow you could go? He said, well, I don't have to move a squeegee this way. The
No
shop
carpal
didn't have-
tunnel.
They didn't have enough room to put a dryer in. So they had clothing racks and they would put it on a hanger and just hang it to let it air dry. Anyway,
Jeez.
there are strange things that go on in this industry at times.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being on. Do appreciate it. I will have Jody on. I need to get in touch with her and she's been in touch with me. I'll let you guys know when she decides that getting up in the middle of the night is not a bad thing to come on here.
Well, don't tell her that we're coming over.
Well, I was going to
I
tell her
want it to
she
be a
may be
surprise.
surprised. There may be some visitors. Who knows?
We're just gonna knock on the door.
There you
Or
go.
if you
Hi, we're
let us
here.
know ahead of time and we'll fly down there and we'll be there.
Enjoy.
Yeah, we'll knock on the door
and play.
during the show.
Thanks again. Thank you
Thanks
all
for having us.
being on. I'm going to do this again in 2 weeks. I have no idea who I'm going to have on, but we'll drag somebody onto this. Thanks again.
Thanks, Charlie.
Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.
Talk to you later.